you've at some point in your life been browsing D&D adventures and trying to find what you're going to run next, and inevitably you come upon a recommendation from the origins of the hobby, something like the 1980s, the 19th century, and you end up get it on Drive-Thru RPG or whatever, and you find something that looks like this. And then you, it's got some art in it here. It's got like a cool monster, but then there are these huge, unending paragraphs, and occasionally in the middle of them, there's what is the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons version of a stat block, and you just stare at it, and you don't know what to do with that. Now, maybe you've learned how to read these things. You know that AC 5 is sort of a middling AC, probably something close to 15 in modern day. Hit dice 4+1, don't know what that means, but it's got 21 hit points, okay. It's got some saves or whatever. And then just Prison of the Neanderthals, 34. Where's 34? Is it on this? No. Oh, hang on, I have to scroll up. Where is 34? Is it here? You don't know. And you go flipping back and forth, and eventually you find the map, and then you go flip back to this page, and on it goes. And your eyes glaze over, and you decide to find a more modern adventure. And this isn't just a problem in older editions. This is a problem almost no matter where you look. You will find some kind of adventure. There are 5th edition modules that are laid down like this. You open up the page, and you just get walls of text. And I don't know about you, but I've got that thing in my brain that needs constant stimulation. It's called 80 something. It's in full HD, I think. And I can't read this. I can't. I try, and I just can't. And luckily, a lot has changed. For us with, deficit disorders, things have gotten way better. And when OSR people are making new modules, and they want them to feel like this, they want them to feel in that sort of same kind of way, they'll take all this stuff and they'll strip out a lot of stuff, and they'll trust the Dungeon Master. And you get something like Shadowdark. Here's the page on gladiators, gnolls, gibbering mouthers, deep gnomes, and goblins in Shadowdark. In particular, I wanted to draw your attention to the goblin page, so I'm going to go over to the other side. Here I am. And you can see the goblin page here. Goblin, a short, hairless humanoid with green skin and pointy ears. And then there's some information. And this one seems more legible to me. But then again, I'm more familiar with this particular design principles here. AC 11. I'm guessing that's fairly low in this system. Hit points 5. Attack 1 club attack plus nothing, d4 damage. I don't know what the rest means. I'm assuming these are stats down here. ALC level 1. If I knew what Shadowdark, if I knew everything about how it worked, I'm certain this would all make perfect sense to me. But here is where we sort of get at the crux of why I wanted to make this video, this live stream. And I'll catch up with you in chat for a little bit, but this is design. It is not just layout. And there's a quote from Matt Colville that rings around in my head every time I'm laying out my own adventures, is that presentation is a part of design. And when I am designing my own adventures, I spend a lot of time thinking about the layout, because I find myself getting really, really cross-eyed looking at anything that doesn't sort of explain itself to me as we go along. Now, if we go look at, this is the broadsheet. This is issue 2 of the broadsheet. Let me see if I can put this into page fit and blorp me over to the other side. This is issue 2 of the broadsheet. And here we have a dungeon. It's got some mechanics at the front. And I try to make sure that every page has a shape to it. And that shape might be different, right? Here we've got this part of the house, and it's laid out in this sort of shape, the map. So I cover the ground floor here by describing it in this way, right? And here's a little map, and it's a hyperlink. Look, I hover on it. A blink takes me back here. I can go corridors. Click takes me back there. Look at that. Servants. Bonk takes me over to servants. That's over here, right? You go back to this page down here. And now, because we're talking about the wings and that they are not this shape, but this shape, They go on the sides of the page, and then we've got the stuff in there next to it. This helps me. I wish every time I looked up an adventure, it would look something like this, because I'd be able to read more of them. And from all across the hobby, there are beautiful artists who are not just doing art like drawing or art, writing, game design, but there are layout artists, and these can get into all shapes. If I go show you here, this is Fairy. This is a Kickstarter I backed from Dragon's Vault, and you can see here's a stat block, a description, and these descriptions belong to these stat blocks. So they put them on opposite pages, right? So they face each other. So when I look at this is over here, and they have these stat blocks, and they mostly sort of fit in the 5th edition language of things. It's the 5th edition design language, but they've changed it to make it their own, to make it sort of fairy. Of course, there's a blight. Look at that. If you go to DriveThruRPG or DM's Guild, you might pick up something that looks like this. It's got literally the 5e design documents. They put these up on DriveThruRPG, and they will, you can go on DM's Guild, you can go and download for free, I think, a look for 5th edition modules, and you get these sort of beige pages with these typical headers, and then you can set things up so they read as a 5th edition immediately off the bat. And these come in all kinds of ways. Here's a zine spread called Ossuary of the Mighty. I should have been citing sources the whole time. This is Horror on the Hill. It's a classic adventure. This is Fairy, a Realm Wanderer's Guide, Shadow Dark. This is Ossuary of the Mighty. It's a 3-fold zine, which you sort of unfold, and then there's an adventure in there. And look, it's got art, and then you see East Tomb. This tomb has the same description and number of enemies as mentioned in Area 4. And it's got this arrow. Look at that. Wow, we can zoom in. Arrow. This is just an image. It's from preview, I think. 2 skeletons, bolted, await in the darkness. The standing sarcophagus releases a white, while 4 specters coalesce the moment the portcullis blocks the exit. Portcullis, presumably. Okay, why does everything say honk? Oh, this is the ultimate honk cyclopedia. Honksious Laughter, Honking Smite, Honksing Goose Servant, Illusory Gander. This is beautiful. This is available on DM's Guild as well. What was I looking at, Magnus? I should show you. Somewhere in here. Hang on, let me go to the index. It's a heavy document. Here's the cover, Ultimate Honk Cyclopedia. Look at that. It's got a goose kaiju battle. I'm going to find the Beholder. Sorry. The Begander. Here's the Begander stat block. I don't know if I've set this up wrong. I might have. It might be supposed to be like this. Begander, fearless behemoth with low frequency honks. Honk. Isn't that great? Do a face reveal. This is my face, Ismail. You've seen it before. Mike just made a video about the Goose Hydra. Yeah. And Bone Wizard made one about the Magusa. These are amazing. These are, go on DM's Guild. These are supreme. Demogoose. Where's the Magusa? That's why I bought this. I watched Bone Wizard's video and I was like, hell yeah. I know Mike made one as well. I haven't seen that one. Incredible. I'm not going to give the whole book away. What is this? Goose NATO. Isn't that great? The Pale Prince. Unrelated, but I need an answer. Okay. For 3 mile hexes, how can heroes get lost? It seems like a big part of hex crawls, and I'm running one soon. A lot of hex crawls have watch actions about navigation. I don't know how they can't get lost. If all the hexes look the same and they make a roll, they get lost. I don't know what your problem. Hang on, I'm in the middle of my intro. Sorry. Thank you so much. I'll get to you in a second. I'm sorry. Ossuary of the Mighty. Hang on. 4th edition. 4th edition decided to change the design language. They do this with every edition. Actually, let me see if I have the 3rd edition manual. This is a terrible opening. I've been thrown off my game by a super chat. I'm so sorry, Pale Prince. Hang on. Ba, 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 ba. Do I not have a... I don't know if I have a third edition. The third edition one changed the design language as well. They all do. Anyway, this is here I run into a problem because here is the goblin spread. Here's where goblins are introduced in this. And I have not set these up the right way. Stand by. Odd spreads. There we go. Goblin. And then there's just this smattering of stat blocks. And to me, now, if you played a bunch of 4th edition, maybe you'd be like, these are real simple. These are not that complicated. But I remember I'm often designing monsters, and I'll go have a look at what 4th edition did, and I'll try my best to parse something like this. So I kind of don't know if I can immediately make sense of all these things. And I don't mean if I read it, it doesn't make sense. If I read this, it makes perfect sense. But when I open it, because if I have that little bug in my brain that needs to get everything immediately, I have that little bug in my brain. So when I open this and I look at it, it's a lot. It's so many things, and there are boxes, and it feels so rigid but confusing at the same time. So what do we do? What is going on? Is the edition designed wrong? No. No. Nothing wrong with the design of the edition, except I think there's a problem with the presentation. And I see that a lot when I go grab anything that is sort of grab anything off the internet, and then I open it, and a lot of the times the presentation is the first thing I take issue with. And I am, when it comes to written text, I am a shallow person, right? I'm not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I do all the time. And I think we all do. That's why it's a phrase. So a while ago, when we first started this channel, I released an adventure. And I made it in Word. And it looked like this. And, I credit to myself where it's due. There are headers. But other than that, I don't think this is terribly readable. So I need to go make this look nice, because we have been working on something called The Crown of the Fungal Queen, an adventure here created over live stream with me and chat, where we all go and make a dungeon together. I will ask chat questions, and I will take their prompts and put them into an adventure, because I want to make a hex crawl adventure that you can run for 1st to 3rd, 5th level, something like that. And that hex crawl adventure is going to be up on the Patreon for Adept members. I'm going to put this little button for Adept members, which is the sort of middle tier, and anyone supporting at a higher tier, so the Mystic Expert as well. And when that's done, we're going to try and finish that around May 28th. Yes, May 28th, that's when all of your favorite D&D YouTube creators will be taking part in Dungeon Jam, where we all make 5-room dungeons for free and put them up on the internet for you to use. And it'll be a huge playlist, and you can browse through it like you're at a vinyl shop, and you can go tick, 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 and pick out the things you like and just go run them. And that's something us content creators are doing. But if you want to take part, we are introducing a new thing here on the channel. We're doing a contest. There's a link in the description if I've done my setup correctly. And that link will take you to the Dungeon Mayhem contest, where you can submit a dungeon, a 5-room dungeon that is no more than 650 words and has to include a map, a work in progress of some kind. And that map and that dungeon could become a part of the Crown of the Fungal Queen adventure that we've been working on, and that I will be working on in this stream tonight or today, depending on wherever you are. Go check that out. The rewards for winning, the 5 winners of the 5 different dungeons, 5 different 5-room dungeons. Each of the winners will get a year of Mystic Expert on the Patreon, a hour-long interview with me, where we can talk about whatever you want, whether it's dungeon mastering or content creation or design, like I'm doing right now, or tech, microphones, cameras, up to you. You will also get, hang on, there were more things. we will commission a bit of art or something to put in the dungeon, a map, and you will be credited and you will get a shout out of your choice in an upcoming video. And when that's all done, then you give us permission to post this as a part of our Crown of the Fungal Queen adventure, but you still own the rights to the dungeon. You can go put it up on DriveThruRPG or DM's Guild or wherever you want. That is 25 rooms worth of dungeons. You're right, Micah. Except that's just the 5 that are up for the contest. I will also be making dungeons, and my lead designer here at Mythic Games, Magnus, who is in chat, will also be making dungeons. There will be so many dungeons. They will all be in that sort of hex crawl format. So that long intro aside, welcome to Mystic Arts. My name is Daði. I'm a professional writer and director, and I have been DMing for a little bit over a decade. Alright, I am now going to look at your chat, Pale Prince. You said something else, I saw. If 3-mile hexes make the surrounding hexes informed landmarks, how can anyone get lost? Maybe some hexes are too dense to see the horizon? Right, you can see what is in a hex, but you might not find your way to that hex accurately. If you're in a forest, and you can tell that there's a tower sticking above the tree line, and then you sort of have to navigate alongside in the canopy, going through the forest, you have to make a navigation check. If you fail that, you can get lost. However, if you've got a clear line of sight of the target, you're in hills, or if my players are walking along a coast or a river, they don't make a navigation check. But if it is difficult to navigate, you make a navigation check. For instance, if every hex around you is the same, right? If you are in a hex map and all the hexes are forest hexes, and you have to enter the right forest hex with no landmarks to go off of, then you make a navigation roll. If you fail that, you can get lost. Something else. Can anyone explain the topic of the stream is about, and if it'll publish later on YouTube? Yes, the topic of the stream is how to lay out dungeon adventures, like I was talking about in the intro. Hey, Llama Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Everybody say thanks to Llama Man. Can we submit multiple dungeons for the contest? Yes, absolutely. I would suggest that you put as much work as you can into one dungeon, and therefore make one really good dungeon. But if you are confident that you can make many really good dungeons that have a chance to win, knock yourself out. Go right ahead. But only one dungeon per dungeon available. The Abandoned Mine, Grimroot, the Library, Naiad's Rest, and Brewing Cabin. Only one of each of those will win. So if you submit 5 Grimroots, guaranteed only one of them will win. And if you win multiple prizes, there is, I guess we could do a 2-hour meeting or something. If most maps are adjusted for square layout, why bother with hex? I get the hex for a world map, but for a battle map? I don't do a hex map for the battle map. I do squares. Did Magnus get a membership? I don't think so. So, how did Vagabond go? It went great. We went to a cabin. We played Vagabond for 2 sessions, asterisks, sort of. The first day we played for, must have been 8 or 9 hours. And the second day we played maybe just 2 or 3. I ran through an adventure written by Taryn, and I think Val from Corkboards and Curiosities helped with that one. And we played through that, it's called Wet Dreams. It's like a lighthouse that is sunk. And there's a bad guy mermaid in it. And it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. I was kind of amazed by how quickly you can get through dungeons in that system, because all the checks are player sided. So, if they're gonna attack a monster, see if they hit, takes no time at all. There were a couple of sort of things that we bumped into. I think they were mostly like, it's possible we were running the game wrong, but there were a couple of builds that we thought were a little bit busted. The tactician feat in Vagabond, for instance, is insane. It kind of kills any use of favored or hindered in the game. So that was kind of crazy. How do you cope with imposter syndrome when DMing? My players, by the way, if you're watching the mod right now, I'll put a little link where you can see where we go back to go back to the topic at hand. But I tend to sort of ring out chat at the start because everybody comes in, they got burning questions. They're like, Daði's live, I have to ask him stuff. I'm here to help. How do you cope with imposter syndrome while DMing? The players say they like the game and they want to do the campaign, but I just cannot believe them. You gotta believe them. You know, I don't know why you shouldn't. I think that's just sort of regular anxiety. And take a deep breath and remember the greatest indicator for whether or not they like the campaign is whether they keep showing up. Because I'll tell you one thing, all those people on the internet who complain about scheduling issues, your players have it out if they want it. If your players want to leave the campaign, if they're not having fun, they can just keep inventing family emergencies for session after session after session after session until they stop playing. So if you book a session and everybody shows up, odds are you're running a great session. You're running a good game. And you got nothing to worry about. If occasionally something comes up, don't read into that. But if you watch as your group falls apart and is never available, maybe there's a problem. Maybe not, but maybe there is. You're welcome, Ace Luby. She's amazing. So, I don't know if you're familiar. I talked about this a bit in the intro, but I do this thing called a broadsheet. And this is not an ad. I will plug the broadsheet later. Don't worry about it. But the reason I bring it up is because that means I spend time now, every month, taking adventures that my co-conspirator Magnus has written up, or sometimes it's me who's written them up. In this case, this is one of mine. And I format it. And that, I think, is an art form in and of itself. Now, I do a lot of my writing right into InDesign because I want the page to have a certain layout. I think it is important that there is art, that each page gets treated as a piece of art in and of itself. And your art forms are multiple. So, for instance, this spread may not be much to look at, but I think of it as one unit of art. It is the basement, with this art of the basement, description of the basement, all the stat blocks running along the bottom, and then a little note here on how to run puzzle combats. That is all one look, right? But also, each page has to be its own piece of art. This page, just the one with the stat blocks, needs to also look appealing. Same thing's happening here, We got this upper floor piece, description of the upper floor, painting room. We got some handwritten, handouts. These are notes the players can find in the dungeon. And we got this map up here, right? But then, so there's the page, there's the spread, but then there's the chapter. And the chapter becomes this sort of section. What is the dungeon? It has ending the adventure. It's got this black page for the monster. It's got this layout section. It's got this section on the haunt and phantom events, so how to make the dungeon come alive. And it's got this front page, right? So that becomes a unit that we put the adventure into. All of these things we want to put into little boxes. And here's the reason we do this. Notice all these headers: missing servants, rumors of weapons, jewelry and wealth, plot hooks. I could have just written a paragraph going, hey, if you want to make up a plot hook, you can do this, or you can do that, and you can do this, you can do that. And I could have just sort of rattled them off. But I decided to instead put these little blocks in here. Because when you just rattle them off, they become these sort of endless paragraphs that become difficult to catch your eye. And here's the secret. Here's the real secret. What you're trying to do is you're trying to make it sure that when people skip text they read, they skip to the next bit that interests them. Because when I look at this paragraph, if I get bored about this point, I don't know where else to skip except down to this table down here. If I don't know what that's for, I don't know where to skip except here. And the more often I do this, the more I miss crucial context. And then by the end of it, I close the adventure and I don't run it. I never run it. And then the layout has failed me. Now, there are people who read these things. There are plenty of people who, in the old school days of the hobby, read all this stuff, and they have no issue with it. I remember Ben Milton at Questing Beast took some criticism towards Dungeon Crawl Classics, and people came after him and were like, "What are you afraid of reading? What's going on?" But the thing is, many of us are trying to grab these things. The reason we reach for modules is because we want to open them, understand them, and decide whether or not to run them. And then when we decide to run them, we want to be able to immediately go, this. You grok the whole thing one step at a time. And we skip. There are definitely people who will read the whole thing. But I think most people, they open this stuff and they just start skipping around. They go, okay, plot hooks. How and why do your players decide to explore up to, okay, whatever. Finders, keepers. Tax revenue. Fuck that. They go, last owners of the estate, several servants disappeared, missing rumors of weapons, jewelry and wealth. My players love looting. This family, the one who lives here, I assume, was previously wealthy, and the jewelry and wealth left around the house is worth a fortune. Yeah, I think my players will like that one. They look at the headers. So when we're putting headers in here, we are trying to make it so that you can immediately know what is being explained. Haunting. Dungeon turns. Oh, I don't need to read about dungeon turns. I watched Daði's video about it. I'm going to skip that bit. Entering the house. The hauntings. Oh, here he explains the hauntings. Okay. Blinded eyes. And the way you just sort of go on and on and on, you skip all these steps. That is what we're looking for. That is what we're trying to do when we are laying this out. Alexis, this is the Broadsheet. Now I'm going to do the plug. The Broadsheet is a digital magazine that I make on my Patreon for Adepts, but it's also available for purchase individually at the price of an Adept subscription. And we make this here over at Mystic Arts. We have an artist on board who's working here, and we have a writer on board who's working here, Magnus. And the three of us come up with a new issue every month. We lay it all out. We put it up in this, and inside every issue, you get an adventure you can run, a bit more of the Mega City Flintlock Fantasy setting that these adventures are set in, even though you can put them wherever you want, and then something else. So the third chapter in the third issue, for instance, had subclasses. The third chapter of the fifth issue, out now on Patreon, just came out, had species you can play. And we make this over on Patreon, and we are going to make Dungeon Crown of the Fungal Queen as one of these sort of in this kind of style. And it's a huge undertaking. This has been a labor of love that we are trying our best sort of to get done here on time. And there's a lot of work left to do. Making an adventure every month sounds hard but fun. Yeah. We playtest them. We just did a playtest yesterday, and good thing we playtest those things because it was overtuned as hell and we TPK'd, so we're going to adjust. Is this stream intended for designers? How would this be helpful for viewers? If you want to, I'm basically making this because we're running a contest for the Dungeon Mayhem. And that contest is for people who want to design dungeons. And there's a link in the description for the contest and detail on it and how that works. But if you're somebody who wants to get into RPG design, or if you want to, make money selling adventures or any of those things, here's a little primer basically on how to think about these things. And maybe, if nothing else, I hope to teach you why you might bounce off of certain things. And maybe that's going to help you figure out what you want and what you like. Because when I open up a Shadow Dark adventure, not this one, hang on. Let me go find a Shadow Dark adventure I was just looking at. I have different levels of excitement. Actually, let me open up the Vagabond adventure I just ran this weekend. Because I have different levels of excitement depending on if I can understand the adventure. The reason I decided to run the Vagabond adventure is because I opened it and I immediately got it. It was gorgeously laid out. Here it is. It was gorgeously laid out. There we go. And I just sort of looked at it and I went, this is fantastic. Situation, hooks, conversions, factions, dungeon, progress clocks, island, South Coast. Art sections, I immediately got it. Do your skills in InDesign come from your background in game dev? No. My skills in InDesign came from when we'd been doing this channel for several months and we decided to go full time and I had to teach myself InDesign. Do you design your layouts for print or viewing on a widescreen? Both. Right, Dr. Funnybones? This is a Vagabond adventure. It's not for 5th edition. You could theoretically run it in 5th edition. I don't know why you would. Try Vagabond. So, but having said all that about designing dungeons, I am also just here because people like to ask questions, and I have some work to do. And I'm going to go convert my old All Hail Gek Kobold adventure. And I'm going to go put it up in InDesign, and you're going to see how the sausage gets made. But before I get to do any of that, I have to stop being Daði from Mystic Arts. Why do I have to stop being Daði from Mystic Arts? Yes, I have to become Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Subscribe to D&D rules.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Welcome back to Smash.
Clearly
Pass.
agile, sneaky, intelligent, powerful. I'm on the bed already.
T-minus 5 seconds.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Here we are. Whenever I start one of these, I copy just a previous issue of the broadsheet so I can get started. But this is InDesign. You can see I've got these guides and layouts and assets here. This one sort of borked. We're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to take this. We're going to throw it away. We're going to copy paste this. For this version of All Hail Gek, we're going to call it the Red Scale Tribe, because that is what is the name on the map of the hideout. Now, we could call it All Hail Gek, but that means we'd have to label the map as All Hail Gek, which is kind of, to me, it's the name of an adventure, not the name of a place in an adventure. And then we have these text blocks. I just go nerd. You can see there's a bunch of text in here already. And we're going to delete it. We don't need it right now. Now, I've already done the work of setting up my look. That took a while, and that is well beyond the scope of this live stream. If you want more guidance on how to set up this kind of stuff, and if you are an aspiring TTRPG designer or somebody who wants to write modules for another system like 5th edition, I'd recommend going to check out Matthew Perkins's, Matty P's video on InDesign and layout. I know that Anto from Icarus Games also does Affinity layout videos. I think Affinity is, I don't know if it's free, but it's certainly cheaper. And then I'm going to go open up the raw text version. Before the stream started, I extracted the text from my old Word document. And here it is, just this raw text with no layout on it. Control A, Control C, Control P. I'm going to see Control Shift P. Does that work? No. So these here are going to be an issue because if I now change this to a different thing, it's all going to change. So we are just going to have to very boringly remove these indicators. You can see these are hidden characters that we're currently removing. Now, if I were smart, I'd think of stuff to say while I'm doing the boring part. Yeah, we played for a lot of Vagabond. It was set in like the ancient past of my setting, because I kind of wanted an excuse for all the rules to be different, like spellcasting rules and stuff like that. And I came up with, it was set during the end of the Kalian Empire, which I think I stole from Matt Colwell. And I did a bunch of research. I read a bunch of wiki articles about the end of the Roman Empire. And tried to think about how that would translate to RPG setting. And then everybody made characters for it. And we had a great time. We bumped up a little against the rules. In some cases, I think it was us. I think we ran Tactician wrong. If we ran it right, that's a broken feature. But I don't know. I don't know if we did. I should ask Taryn whenever I meet him. I continue to rub up against roll under systems. I don't know if it's for me. I have a hard time. So roll under systems is basically you have a, if you're new to RPGs, you have a stat. So in D&D you have like strength 18. In a roll under system, that means you have to roll lower than 18 to get it. To just succeed the check. No DCs in the game, right? Vagabond is a roll over, so your strengths, so like your skills are lower numbers, lower better, but the roll you want is still high. And I kind of bumped up against it. I kind of had a hard time with it because I always just felt it was difficult to sort of simulate things being different difficulties. Now, there's stuff you can do about it. You can give favor or hinder on the roll, but so many abilities that the players had also gave favor and hinder on the roll. So the best I could ever do was change whether or not they already had favor or hinder. So I'm not sure. So this was roll over, not roll under, but even still, like there was no lever I had that the players didn't have, right? If you're playing 5th edition, and I'm not here to extol the virtues of 5th edition. I like it. I'm a big fan of 5th edition, but that's not why I'm bringing it up. Just as an example, if you're playing 5th edition, the player might be able to say, I get an advantage on this check. But they cannot say, the DC was 10, actually. So that's sort of where I had a hard time with it. And the other thing was, I feel like sometimes, there are cases where this isn't true, but sometimes it removes a little bit of the drama. Like, I'm going to try and convince this guy. Did a 16 get it? Does that convince the guy? We might not know. The DM might then start to talk in character and describe whether, what the character says next. Did we convince the guy or not? If you roll and you have an empirical result in front of you, I roll, I succeed. It is more challenging, I think, for the DM in that case to go, that's not that big a success. So we can see here, I've taken this text, I've removed some more formatting from it. What I'm doing is it creates this column, and then it says this red plus arrow saying, hey, there is more text in this text box that you can see. There's invisible text. You click on the box, you go clunk, and it adds it onto the next page. Clunk, adds it onto the next page. And you keep doing this until you've emptied the text box, which we still have not done. So if you were submitting this dungeon for the Dungeon Jam, for the Dungeon Mayhem contest, this would be too long because we want those to fit on a spread, and this does not. But this one also currently includes a tutorial on how to play D&D. Because when we wrote this to be a dungeon for first-time dungeon masters. And we also wrote it very quickly. I think I edited the video, and then I quickly wrote an adventure to put with it. And folks have run it, and they've told me they had great success, which I'm very proud of. Proud of those players for taking the first step at becoming dungeon masters. But for the Crown of the Fungal Queen, if we're going to include this adventure in there, we're probably going to remove all the tutorialization. So it's a question of whether or not this version of the adventure should get laid out twice. Once with tutorialization, once without. Or if we just include the tutorialization in this adventure. So if you're a first-time DM, there is an option in the... Because this is going to be our sort of Atroxia starter set. So maybe it's best if there is a tutorial in here. We put little tutorial boxes, and we just have a little note at the front of the adventure saying, hey, if this is your first time running, consider running this as your first dungeon, because it'll explain the rules. Maybe that's the best way to do it. What do you think, Magnus? You're designing this with me. Is that crazy? Got a new mouse today. Hang on, can I show you my mouse? This is it. Wasn't terribly expensive, but it's a very odd looking mouse. This is what it looks like. It's wireless. I don't need this. Wow. Look at that. And you hold it like this. Because my thumb has been killing me ever since I started working on the broadsheets all day. And I discovered I was moving my mouse with my thumb. Daði, why aren't you using Control F? Well, I'm clearly because I'm an idiot. Find what? This. Change to what? This. 0 replacements made. Can it select invisible letters? Whoa! Oh my god. Vincerp, I think I owe you several hours of my life. There could be a natural first dungeon to run into, says Magnus. I think so. I think we should invent a new look of text box for this, Magnus. That is the tutorial text box. And like, it doesn't have to be very different, just a slightly different color. Red, it's one we haven't used already. And be like, hey, this is a tutorial text box. And then, over the course of only this one dungeon, that text box appears. And then you, if you already know how to play D&D, you ignore that. Hey dude, hey, I'm doing a thing where the party has picked up a pet that will one day potentially be dangerous to them. Do you have any ideas how to balance nature versus nurture here while foreshadowing? I don't know. Not a clue. For the War Master, go ahead and send an email to go to our website, and our email is at the bottom, and go find that and tell me what your channel is, and I will reply to you on whether or not we can invite you to the content creator side of the Discord. Are there free alternatives to InDesign? I think Affinity is free. Somebody said so in chat earlier. There we go. Done, right? Now, if you went and bought an adventure and opened it up and it looked like this, that would not be good. You would feel like that was a bit of a ripoff, right? If it looked like, if it looked like this, you'd feel like that was a bit of a ripoff. You're like, what? No, I'm not doing this. Is that acceptable? I don't think so. I don't think it is. So, what do we do about that? We put layout on it. Because if we put no art in here, if we just put in headers, boxes, read aloud boxes, stat blocks, suddenly the whole thing feels more professional. Because presentation is a part of design. I've spoken about this before, but there's a bit in Daggerheart, and it's the only bit of Daggerheart that has made me want to run it. And that is, I looked through it and I'm like, I don't know, this system may or may not be interesting. This may or may not be for me. I don't know that I need a new system to do the thing I'm already doing. I'm pretty happy with what I have. But then I opened a cover on the Drylands of the Colossus, And there's a train mech and a cowboy with a gun. And then on a spread next to it, there's the stat block for the train mech, and it's 5 different stat blocks, one for each limb of the monster. That was the spread I opened, and I fell in love. I wanted to go run that. Now, in terms of actionable design on there, very little. There's the idea of the 5 stat blocks for the train mech. In terms of art, it wasn't like super rendered, but it was really beautiful. It was really, really beautiful. And whoever did it had an eye for composition, an eye for scale, and it looked stunning. I was amazed, and I wanted to run it. So that's sort of important for this kind of stuff. That is what we mean when we say presentation is part of design. If you present something with confidence, gusto, you go, bam, train mech, cowboy. Whoa, that gets you excited. Or ideas about a 5-room dungeon without fighting. Daði! Why, I don't know why I would put my players in a dungeon and not have them fight. If I want them to roleplay all session, I don't have to put a dungeon in front of them. I could just put a guy in front of them. Have a morally ambiguous NPC show up and present a moral conundrum. Help me do this, and I will totally not betray you later. Help me do this, and it'll also help me with the thing that you don't like, but it doesn't bother you right now. May not be even in the rest of the adventure, but I can do this thing. It's a house. Yeah, exactly. If you put a 5-room dungeon with nothing to fight in it, you've just done a house. Why did you spend so much on a house? Like time. Just don't. Hard content consumes most of the session time. Soft content makes the session memorable. Yeah, that's a very good way to phrase it, Magnus. I think I am long overdue on a video between hard content and soft content. Because all of my favorite sessions are my favorite because there is a bit of soft content there. An NPC they spoke to, a bit of lore that they learned, something they uncovered. I ran there was a bit in Rime of the Frostmaiden. There's a 5-room dungeon in Rime of the Frostmaiden where a nautiloid, like a squid ship, a Mind Flayer squid ship, has crashed in the glacier. And it's a 5-room dungeon. You go in there, there are some squidlings, and they're running around with laser guns, and they shoot at you. Minor spoiler for Rime of the Frostmaiden. And that's neat. It was fun. They got a laser gun. They had a good time. And then afterwards, Magnus's character, Natalia Winters, wanted to know where the ship came from and was trying to access its memory cores. And it killed her. I'm kind of nervous about telling the story because Magnus is going to correct me in chat, but I don't remember whether there was a save originally that he failed, took some damage, and then I think he did it again. And it immediately, massive damage, killed her. There was a high level, so they were able to quickly revivify her with her last diamond, I think. And she came back, and all she wanted to do was stick her hand in there again to learn why the ship crashed here. What was it doing? What was it doing in this part of space? Is there multiple planes? How does it get here? How does it fly? What is this thing? Where do mind flayers come from? They wanted the knowledge. That's soft content. That made it memorable. But it happened because there was a 5-room dungeon. That is how those things live in symmetry. If there's a squid ship and it crashed, and they go in there and there's a little mind flayer squidling who goes, "Hello, I'm from outer space." I don't know that it has, that sounds like a 30-minute session to me. You know what I mean? So here we are. Here's the raw text of the adventure. Back to the show, folks. All hail Gek, beginner adventure for 5th edition. We don't need that in this because it doesn't need this is going to be in the middle of a hex crawl adventure. You've just given away your immunity to psychic damage ring. That's right. So you kept getting snippets of lore and then took damage. So you kept wanting more snippets. That's what it was, Myers. And then if only you had gotten your immunity to psychic damage, you could have just held on to the orb, taken no psychic damage, and learned everything. Yeah, so we don't need this bit. We're going to take it out. We have here a bit of read-aloud text. So I'm going to go here to this selection, and I'm going to go quote. Then it becomes like that. All Hail Gek is a beginner adventure edition that is designed to teach you how to run the game as you read. I think we can keep that bit of text. How to read an adventure. So right now, what we're just going to do is we're going to sort of format this as we go along. So we're going to go in here. We're going to select all the text. Select. And we're going to click body follow-up because that is going to indent the first line. And then only when we have, the first line after the first paragraph break. So it's going to look like this. And then, what does the GM do? I think these are header 4, actually. How do I decide if it's header 3 or header 4? Vibes. That's what it was on it, yeah. She went down. We healed her. She put her fingers back in. Mass attempts died. This was Anna's like third or fourth session with the rest of the group. Daði, you can assign key shortcuts to your paragraph styles. That's cool. I will do that eventually. I'm not going to do that right now. So right now, what am I doing? I'm just going to go through and I'm going to add headers so that I know what each individual bit is. And I am not shy about changing my mind. Once I've done an initial layout pass, I can pretty brutally start moving stuff around. The thing is, if you ever get beholden to what you are writing, you sort of risk getting stuck. You're like, I think that's where writer's block comes from, is that you start having this idea of I have to do it a certain way. I can't progress until on the actual play that we're working on. If you missed the last couple of these, we're working on an actual play. We've filmed the whole thing by now, and the first couple of episodes are up on the Patreon for the Journeyman and Expert tier. But on that show, I couldn't start naming it for ages. I couldn't start prepping it because I didn't have a name. And then I picked a name at some point, and then I finally felt like I could prep. And when the first episode went live on Patreon for early access patrons, I changed the name. The name didn't matter. I changed it. I didn't need it. Like, general features. There we go. I think there's a lot of blah, blah, blah in here that we are not going to need. Area 1, roll for initiative. Light, okay. Area 2, look, this one is a big chunk. Area 3, secret door. Yeah. Såna. I got to be the player in that adventure. All Hail Gek, or the Nautiloid one. So here I'm doing a bit of writing that I don't like. Area 4, another fork. This is going to be a problem. We're going to change this probably at some point soon. And I think at this point I want to show you the map that we have for this, because I don't like it. And that's not... I'm not doing that thing where it's like, oh, I wrote this in the past and I'm so much better now. I don't do that. That's a feeling I had to get over a long time ago. What I am doing is I'm recognizing that there is a difference in functionality. And I want it to be as functional as possible. So here is the original art, like the map of the adventure. And I have an issue with this. Have you spotted the issue? Are you attentive? Brownie points for whoever gets it. What is wrong? What is wrong with this map? Why is this map worse than the one I just showed you in the in Broadsheet 2? One thing I'm gonna have to use to is the mouse is taller, so I bump it. Here's the map for Broadsheet 2. What's different? What's different? It's a very simple thing. Map 1, map 2. Entrance is here. They have to go down into the cave. All roads lead to Rome. Yeah, I mean that is one thing. The sort of adventure has two different funnels and really only has the one. Like it's not Jack Hayes at all. I think that's a problem, but that is not my issue. Nobody gonna get it? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 12, 18, 1. Room names. Gizmo gets it. The numbers don't mean anything. That's right. What is 2? What is 2? 3, 4, 7, 5. You go to this one. Servants, kitchen, dining hall, laundry room, child's room, Abraham's wing, Constance's wing. I look at this and I immediately know, what am I looking at? I immediately know Abraham's wing. I don't know where it is. That much isn't clear. Right? In a perfect world, this would all be alphabetized, but we don't live in a perfect world. That much has become evident to me. But in here, we could put in a little table saying how this is laid out. Abram's wing is here, page 18, click. We can go upper floor, click on upper floor, we get back to this. Recreation rooms, click. Hey, those are all great. But also, when I look at the names, I go, oh, this is so-and-so's room. Just a flavorful thing that tells you what it is you're looking at. If you go room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4, we get back to that idea of if somebody opens this and they're going to skip ahead, they go, oh, this room is just, 3 goblins. I'm going to skip to the next interesting room. I wonder if the next interesting room is room 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. Or maybe the next interesting room is called the Whirlpool of Death. And I go, oh, I bet the Whirlpool of Death is pretty cool. What's that about? Vermi Dryak Gaming. So you can't use the map on the table? Yeah, sure you can. You just get the map that doesn't have the icons on it. It's easy enough. What? AB is showing me something. I don't... Standby. This is apparently important. Hang on. I have a standby button. Where's my... And we're back. Yeah, 2 maps. We need descriptive names. Yes, exactly. Because when you have descriptive names, it is easier to hop around the document. And it just makes the reader have a nicer time sort of trying to download the info into their head. Shadow Dark maps usually have the creatures described in the map as well. Yeah. Like if you have a room full of goblins, call it the Goblin's Chamber. And then you're like, oh, okay, this is the one that's full of goblins. And then if you read the adventure, even if you read all the adventure, and you don't have that thing that I have where I do skip, eventually you will have that adventure open while you're running the game. And if you're in that bit where you have the adventure open in front of you, and it's called Area 12, Area 13, Area 14, and they go, I open this door, that's area flip, that's area this, flip, that's what this was. Hang on, what is in there? Read. Wouldn't it be better if you just said something evocative that also tells you what it is? Goblin's Den. And you're like, oh, it's the Goblin Den. Yeah, that's the one with how many goblins? 12. Got it. Way easier. So, keep clicking the wrong button. This one I take issue with. Right? 4, 3, 8, 9. Am I gonna have to remake this? I hope not. That would suck. Area 4, another fork. No good. Oh, I should probably commit to having these all be... No, they should be header 3. Each dungeon should be header 1 or 2. Don't worry about it now, Daði. You just told our lovely viewers that they don't need to worry about it right now, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm going to use Control F. That's not going to help. I'm going to need area with a space. That's not going to help either. Match case. Why next? There we go. Here, now we're thinking with portals. Also, area 12 leads into this, area 13 leads into this. The goblins from this area, wouldn't it just be more evocative to go, these goblins the goblins from the den run into the chamber? Don't worry, Dad, it's not going to feel so bad when we're making 15 new maps anyway. Yeah, you know, thanks, man. Because here, Gex Study doesn't need to be called Area 12. Right? Also, what's the order you number them in? Who can say? Right, so now, remember, we were looking at this earlier, and it had no headers on it. Now, it's not done. It's not done. But it's a little better, because now it's got these sort of sections. I can know what I'm looking at, right? This is not a revolutionary idea. I'm aware of that. But immediately it starts becoming a little bit better. So I'm going to take this section here and delete it. I'm going to paste it over here. This is going to be just a sort of floating column of advice that will go into this. A little bit of DM advice for if somebody gets this and they don't know how to do the DMing, they're going to be able to have that in front of them. This here does the job twice. So you can see now that I've taken out a middle chunk, we've revealed repetition. I think you missed area 8. So I have. Good spot. And Magnus, do we rename it or do we keep the name? What does everybody else think? If we have a map, like a hex map, hang on, I can show you the hex map. Stand by. If we have a map like this one, it will be DM facing, not player facing. If we have a map like this one, Here it says Red Scale Tribe. Should that say All Hail Gek? Is it weird that the location is called All Hail Gek? I think so, right? Do you disagree? What do you think, folks? I don't know. So here, it's an adventure. It's a beginner adventure. This bit doesn't belong in the introduction. This bit of flavor text probably has to go as well, because this was written before we had the conceit of the town of Dillon. So here I'm going to put in a header called New Game Masters. Actually, I'm not going to do it like this. I lied. I'm a liar. Who's Gek anyway? He's the bad guy. Yes, that would be weird. I think I agree. Now, is it red scale or is it red scale? Red scale? Red scale. We could also call it Gek's Tribe. We are going to turn this into the what is it, sidebar? We're going to center line this and bold it. No, Shift B. Now, sometimes I do it like this, and I have this bit of text here, but I think actually we're not going to do that. We're going to take this box, we're going to put it in the box, because you could put a text just right into a box like this. And we're going to change the color of the box. Here's this salmon color. Ooh, gross. Can we make it be not painful to look at? That'd be swell. Ooh, gross. Let's see what we can achieve with the power of technology. And now we're back to that salmon color. Maybe red is a mistake. Stop editing your work as you go. I'll be out of a job. Maybe. So here, if I put this box in here, it's just going to sort of do this, which is very frustrating. Amy just finished her application to school, and she is now having what looks like a gin and tonic and some chips. And you're going to play Slay the Spire. She's gotten really sucked in. Amy's schoolwork has been crazy right now. And normally, it's me who's the busiest at home, and suddenly I'm having to question that. As she has been working overtime to try and get into art school. I can click this button up here, wrap around objects, and now I can put it in the middle, and it'll sort of all wrap around it. I think in the middle of making 3rd edition, this feature must have released, because suddenly all the art was in the middle of the page. And I'm personally not a fan of that particular look, but I have, on occasion, found it useful. This adventure is a tutorial for new game masters. If you're running on RPG for the first time, look out for these boxes, as they're designed to teach you how to run the game. Now, if this is full of spelling errors, that's okay. I have an editor. Ha ha ha. So if you spot spelling errors, you can point them out, but I'm probably not going to go do anything about them. I don't like this color, though. I am going to do something about that, because that is my job. What about that sort of beige color here? Ugh. Gross. Why is everything gross? What if I make them green? Sort of pale greenish. Is that terrible? What do you think, folks? Teal, yeah, so it can't be this color, and it can't be this color, and it can't be white. Teal might work. We can lean a little more teal. And to wait, I should be mixing this in Schmeek. Oh no, I've been mixing everything in teal. No, in RGB. Like that color? That's not bad. No, I think it's too loud. I think whatever it is, it has to be really, really chill. So like that. Yeah. Well, they really don't like this color. Suddenly everyone has an opinion. We could go even more sort of towards no color. Salmon, somebody said we can try salmon again. So that would be year somewhere. Somewhere in this realm. Oh, I don't know why that one bugs me. You know, it just yeah, no, that's not doing it for me. Yellow is complementary to violet. That may be a way to go. Is it not just too far away? Because all the other colors so far are like neighbors. Yeah, even. I also like the light tea. I think so. I think I'm going to go back to it. I think I like this one. And it's my book. So here we're just going to go plot hooks. Well, do we need plot hooks? Maybe. If this is the first one. Reduce the saturation. Well, that's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad. I can live with that. Hey, you're running Ruins of Brass. Good luck, Lemon Man. Have fun. Have a lot of fun. I'd love to hear how it goes. Fermi says, should I do editing after writing balancing or during? Yeah. If you're gonna change the balance, we do editing last. We tend to balance before we balance a playtest before we edit. Should plot hooks for the Hexcrawl adventures be in the town summary or something? So that's a good question. Will this have plot hooks? I don't know. That depends on how we make the adventure start. Maybe that's something we should be talking about right now. Because the adventure so far, I'd sort of thought was going to be you arrive in this town and there's a bunch of quests. But now that I'm doing this, I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying you do this dungeon and then you go to town to go sell all your stuff. I think that's a perfectly valid way to start the adventure. Is that up to DMs? I remember opening the 5th edition, the new starter set, Heroes of the Borderlands. And the box set was like, you can start in any of these 3 places, or anywhere else, or whatever. And I was like, I wish you'd given me a, I like options, but I wish you'd told me. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, I think I just wanted to be told why each option might be appealing. I think that would have done it for me. So if it had said, start here if you're brand new, start here if you're experienced, or, this is a great place for this is a great place, So if I go, hey, there are 2 ways to start this adventure. If the first page of the Fungal Queen adventure has like, hey, there are 2 ways to start. 1, if your players are going to a new town, or if you just think they're going to want to pick a random dungeon and you're an experienced dungeon master, start them in town. This is your first time running. Start them in Gex Tribe. Is that the way to go? I think it might be. Four sections, general features. These are all good questions. Being tagged in something on Discord. I'll look at it later. Okay. Well, this describes the 4 sections. So this is, hang on this map. God, I keep pressing the wrong. There's the Wizard's Basement, the Wizard's Tower, Cave, Dragon Lair. Here I go, here are the sections of the dungeon. I don't think we need that. I think we're going to replace that with evocative room names. I think if this is our first expected dungeon, it should have it should still have links in it in town. Beyond that, most dungeons should end with further plot hooks. I think I agree. Beer Rabbit says, I think it needs to be emphasized that you should not start a dungeon adventure in a town if you're a beginner. The lure of spending way too much time in town is dangerous. I agree. I think if this is your first time running D&D, start them outside the dungeon. Or start them inside the dungeon. Literally say, welcome to D&D. Here's the dungeon. Actually, yeah, I think we should just write this as if this is the beginning of the adventure. Because if somebody disagrees with it, we can just put it in a little box like this, or one of these sort of meta boxes that we use sometimes. I want these to be a different color because I want them to be, this is the tutorial box. But we can use this sort of meta box, and we could say, hey, if you want, you can start in Dilhorn. We can even stick that somewhere on the first page here. I want to show you. Since you're sticking around here, folks, I think you all deserve a little sneak peek. Because I've just gotten permission from our lead artist, Brimrune, to share with you what she's been working on for Dilhorn. Because she has just finished up the next broadsheet, and as such, has started drawing the Dilhorn arts. And this, I think, so these are the thumbnails. This is not finished. So it'll look like this right now, but whenever she's done, here's a little sneak peek of the Broadsheet. Here's what that's gonna, so she starts off with these sort of blobby shapes and then defines them over time, right? So having that in mind, here's what we think that the cover art for the town, not the whole adventure, cover art for the town might look like, and then different cover arts for different parts of the adventure module. So for whenever we get to the wilderness where all the hex crawling is, like all the dungeons, she has started working on an art for Canopy's Breach, the final dungeon in the adventure where the boss is. Here's what that looks like. Look at that, as a tower. This sort of fungus growing out of it, and these tiny little heroes about to go face into this giant tower, and these trees sketched around. I think it's just gorgeous. And then, because you all loved it so much, I also wanted to make sure there was a cover for the wilderness, for all the different sort of keyed locations you could find in the adventure. So she went and drew the Beaver of Knowledge. Look at how big it is! Look at that huge beaver! Beautiful. Beautiful. Eventually she's going to finish these up and they're going to go all over the issue, and there's going to be so much more art in it. We are going way overboard with the art. It is going to be full of it. Anyway, back to the show. General features. I think one of these columns should be the start of the adventure. So I don't want, so here's where the design of the page comes in. I don't want general features to be here. I want that to be something on the next page. It is a part of a different thought. You open it up. Here's the first dungeon. And here goes plot hooks, adventure background, new game masters. Here's some advice for new game masters. We'll go figure all that out. But I think this column should be the start of the adventure. Below you'll find a map of the dungeon. Subsequent. We're going to take the dungeon key thing. We're going to put it next to the maps thing. Because it says below there's a map of the dungeon. Below there's a map of the dungeon. So we're moving things around. What happens in the adventure? I think that goes here. Why start in a dungeon? I think that's something we're eventually going to put into one of these boxes. Right? So what are we doing? At this stage of the process, I like to think of myself as like a wrecking crew. I don't care that this is someone's precious baby. Yes, it happens to be my precious baby, but at the moment, that does not matter to me. What matters to me is that this becomes readable. And at the moment, I am a hatchet man, and I'm going to make sure that this gets readable. Right? So here we go. Here is kind of what the shape of this page is going to be. Plot hooks, this stuff. General features, maps, cave opening. I think cave opening has to be over here as like its own column. But then I think, hang on a minute. When I did the original layout, the one that was in Word doc, adventure overview, dungeon key, on maps, do not reveal it to your players, whatever, area 1, and next to it a cobalt stat block. And then everything you need to know about running it, and then next page is area 2. So I think we need to turn cave opening into its own column. Can you see what I'm doing? I am putting empty space back onto the page because I am trying to give the page shape. And if all of the page has all the information all the time, it just kind of becomes a little dizzying. So I am instead trying to give it shape. So I know this first page is going to be about the start of the adventure, how to run adventures. This second page is going to be how to read maps, how to read this particular map. Don't show your players the map, right? So I'm going to change this to body text, change this to body text. And then I'm going to go nert, put this up here because we need to put the map in here. I'm going to go Splonk, massive map file. We're going to shrink. We're going to shrink, shrink, shrink. Oh, actually, there's a better way to do this. We can go massive map file, make it about yay big. There we go. Now, this isn't perfect. So ideally, at this point, I would sort of open it up in Photoshop and mess around. So here, I don't like these fully white borders. So what I'd do at this stage is I'd open it up in Photoshop and I'd brush out the white so that when I paste this on, save this. This is the beauty of InDesign. I've now overwritten the file. I go back here, and it goes, hey, this isn't the right file anymore. Double click. There we go. Now there's no white box. Right? And then we're going to make this be the text here. So can you see how already it's sort of taking a shape? It's sort of sticking stuff onto it so that eventually it becomes like these sort of different sections of modular bits that you can read or skip. It's going to be great. Hey, Brimmer's in chat. Hi, Brimmer. Man, it's hard to find stock art now that isn't AI. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Sucks. All I want to do is pay artists. If I had an infinite budget, I'd spend all of it on art. I wouldn't have a nickel left. My favorite thing, oh hey Trek. My favorite thing is finding cool stock art and trying to figure out how to build around it. Yeah. I bought a module of like a chunk of stock art from an artist I'd never seen before, and all of their stuff was brilliant. And I think like it was so beautiful. I think I'm just gonna send that folder to Magnus and be like, here are things that we need to invent. Because I want all the pages to be full of art. And we are going to commission a lot of it. But there is so much content, we are not going to be able to do it all. We don't have the kind of budget. If we did, we would. And one day we might, and then we will. But right now we're going to have to make do with the stock art that we have. And some of it is really, really, really good. If you know where to look, there's a lot on like DriveThruRPG. Hang on, let me shout out, who is it that I have art assets from now? There's this one guy called Bag. Bag does really good art. B-A-G, Bag. You know, you get these sort of big abyss thing. You know, that's stock art. Enchanted Pool. Really cool. I think I'm probably going to be sending this to Magnus and be like, hey, let's figure out what these things are. Daniel Kormecki. Kormecki, C-O-M-E-R-C-I. Brilliant. I bet you're going to find this in the adventure. There's a crossbow with a flaming arrow. I think we're going to have to make this into a magic item. I think that's what we're going to do with some of these. We're going to commission some art, but we're going to do what we can to make it as cool as we can with what we have. The coolest bit of art I bought, I don't know if it's gonna, I doubt it. Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's not gonna go into this module, but I will find a place to do it. It is from Matsya Das, M-A-T-S-Y-A-D-A-S. And look, that's so dope. So it's not all doom and gloom. If you know where to look, you're going to find some really cool shit. Anyway, here is Area 1, the cave opening. Here's a bit of read aloud text. And I'm going to go grab this bit, copy, paste. We're going to stick it in here. Plonk. Bonk. If I do remake the map, Dr. Funnybones, I probably will. I probably won't like change the layout that much. It may be like a bit too scaled up. I don't know. I think somebody mentioned that in chat. I read all the chat. I just don't have the wherewithal to respond to all of it. So here we're going to grab a stat block. This is the one for the Gex Raider. It's our lizard folk stat block. But we're going to replace it with a Kobold Warrior. We're going to go in here. Mystic Monsters. Underdark. Kobold. Kobold Mook. There we go. And we're just going to input the information. AC. 12. Hit points. 5. Speed. 30. None of the other speeds. Initiative +2. Strength. 7 to 15, 9. Just slightly different, but they're not very different. There's a rogue space here. That's no good. +0. -2, -1. No save proficiencies. Gear. Dagger. Sling. No immunities. Senses, dark vision, 60 feet, passive perception, 8 languages, draconic in brackets, kobold. CR18. Yep. Traits. There we go. This is just going to be none. And none. And then it needs 2 actions. And it sort of borked it, but that's okay. We will carry on. Go. Talking to me?
I was reading Anna's text that she wrote. Like, because you could draw on the map.
I see. Here we go. Hit. Hit. 1 target. And there's a little stat block. You can see it's all grouped. So it's all in this one block. And we now put that on the page. Now there's a weird thing that if you're using InDesign for the first time, you might notice, is that things sort of move in a strange fashion. If you're looking at the stream right now, you can see what I'm talking about. They all move kind of weirdly. What's going on? Well, what's happening is that it's making sure that the lines across the sheet are consistent. So this line, you begin the adventure here after summarizing, is perfectly in line with where it says AC 12 initiative +2. The next line is perfectly in line with hit points 5. If I move it 1 nudge up, so like 2 pixels or something, blonk, it doesn't move the text. So you don't actually have to worry about where the line is. Things don't go out of whack. There is some way to switch this off. I don't know how. I'm certain somebody in chat can tell me. AB, Anna says, don't make fun of me on stream, AB.
Keep fun of her.
So here is a lot of text. Wow, I just go on and on and on and on. How do you bear it? So I'm not going to have this here. I'm going to put area 2, the fork, probably on the other page. That's another reason. Why did I do that? Because it's got an orphan. That's what it's called when there's a little bit of text that spills over onto the next page. That's called an orphan. And I try and avoid them as the plague. So sometimes that means I have to invent new lines or cut lines because I want it to look nice on the page. So I'm actually going to move the book down. Take this text box. I'm going to fill the page with it. Then I'm going to move the book down here, align it to the bottom. Slightly over the line, then I go adjust. I'm a perfectionist in that way. So you can see this is the shape I have to work with. So I'm probably going to put a bunch of text boxes in explaining what's going on here. Is all this making sense to you folks? Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm getting at about presentation? How the shape of the page dictates what it is that you're trying to communicate, right? Just notice I have a black t-shirt on, and the contrast is such that it's difficult to tell where my shoulders begin, so I am just sort of a floating head. Wow, that's funny. Is there a significant difference in using InDesign over Affinity? You'd have to ask someone who uses both. I've never used Affinity. I think, if I had to guess, I think Affinity is basically InDesign, but open source, and Adobe doesn't get your money. The bit that I like is that I can put Photoshop files right into this. I can have this all live synced and stuff like that. There is cross Adobe. So if you're in the Adobe suite, it's kind of like the Apple thing. If you're invested in that ecosystem, these things all talk to each other. If you don't need that, then you're fine. Hey there, first time tuning in for a live stream. Hi, Mitchie. Just bought your dungeon crawl rules, and I'm going to be running my first 3-level 5-room dungeon. All thanks for all the great work. Keep it up. Hey, I'm so happy I can help. Let me know how it goes. Yeah, so general features. So this is the map page. This is the intro page. This is the how to run a combat page. It just happens to be the start of the adventure. Right? Then we have all of these. Wow, this one is so long. Oh my god. Then we have these sort of problem columns. So this is gonna have to be a column. And yeah, it exactly fits. As long as I put no other headers in here. And by the way, this is read aloud text. Which you can do things to shorten. Like it doesn't need to be this spaced out. But still. Also, this needs a drag and stat block on it. So I may have to put this elsewhere in the dungeon. Like in the layout. Right now it's area 5, because that's what it is, and therefore it has to come after 4 and before 6. But nobody says that that is not a fungible idea. And you can see it's already, we're up to 7 pages. Well, I'm not counting this cover spread here. This is eventually going to be something else. So we're up to 6 pages for this simple 5-room dungeon, because it's going to have tutorials, stat blocks, stuff like that. Wouldn't How to Run Combat be in one of the new Game Master blocks, since most people know how to do that? Yes. Yes, it absolutely would. So here, now we're sort of getting into the redesign here. It is ambitious of me to think that we're going to do this all on stream, but that is me. I always forget. I think this is going to go like that. This is going to go like that. But yeah, no, it totally would. This, I think, kind of needs to be broken up, because I have a bit here going roll for initiative, and it explains how to track multiple monsters in initiative. And then I say, but by the way, you're just doing the 1 kobold. Wouldn't this be better the next time initiative happens? But I don't know when the next time initiative happens is, because after this first encounter, there are several places where the players could roll initiative next. So here's a light rope. So this, all this is running combat, all this is running initiative. So this here is the only bit that is actually like important for the dungeon. And I'm not even sure I need that light there. So I'm going to move it to the top. And you can see this is why I don't often put the text blocks in like I did just then, because now the block is sort of messing with my formatting. So here, I don't know how much I can go into this without already just redoing the map. Because this secret door, I don't think should be its own area. And this fork, I don't think we should do its own area. I think there's some serious redesign that we need that I probably won't be able to get into the right headspace for while I'm talking to you folks. But I'm going to show you a few more things before I call it a night. Oh, because here I'm going to remove all the area indicators. And I think we're going to consolidate a lot of this. Now it tells you to read the light and rope sections out loud. I know, we're not done. We're working on it, Dr. Funny Bones. We're working on it. So, one thing I do a lot. So here I know that I have this dragon. I know that's gotta be its own page. This is never gonna work unless it's its own page. Now I know, because of the layout, remember, we're not doing the text right now, we are doing layout. We can always go back and do the text. I know that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 5, 6. I can make this 5, 6 be anything else. I can literally, also I'm gonna replace 5, 6. It's just gonna say dragon lair, right? So I'm gonna take the Alchemist Laboratory, and I'm gonna put it here. What else is there? 5, 6, 7, 9, 8, 10, 11, 12. Second cave exit. I think that's a subheader under the dragon lair. So notice now I'm no longer trying to convert from the Word doc to InDesign. I am making design decisions. Second cave exit. That's going to be its own thing. The armory. That used to be 8. I think we're just going to go big room. And then we're going to put the armory here. Then the kennel underneath. Keck study. And then the wizard's tower is its own section. Now another thing I like to do is I have stock art. So I'm going to go and I'm going to go root around in it and see what kind of stock art I have that's going to fit. Because I have this one kobold guy. Look at that. Little kobold guy. He's got to go somewhere. I also think I have this one, but that's like a lizard man, so I'm not going to use him. Even though I totally could. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also know I had some black and white like filling art that would fit for this. Stand by. Scroll, re-scroll, re-scroll. Here's a bugbear, a goblin, mind flare. Not yet. Here is the one I'm thinking about. This is a little kobold peeking around a street corner. This looks very pixely. That's not how it looks in full quality. It'll look more like this. I don't know if that's legible at all, but there we go. What else have we got? Ooh, this would be good for the alchemist lab. So I just sort of grab things that I think could work and start sticking them on the page, knowing that I can always use some of those things. There is a dragon in one of these. Let's grab that one. Because here we might end up just putting this kobold up here. If we cut enough space. We might also put him somewhere else. Just to... Because another thing I'm thinking of is if I put all the cool stuff on this page, and then this page just looks really boring, why not put half and half? Cool and cool, you know? But here now, kobold is in this corner, kobold in this corner. Maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe I I mirror it like that. Or not mirror, but you know, I flip it around. I missed it earlier. Where can I buy stock art made by humans? Go on Drive-Thru RPG. I get it, Dr. Funnybones. 100%. 100%. I'm not recommending InDesign. Honestly, you want the God's honest truth? Adobe is expensive as poop. It's real pricey. The only reason I have Adobe is because I trained in Premiere and Photoshop. So when I was coming up and learning how to edit, I've been editing in Premiere since I was 13. I've been editing in Photoshop since I was 17. And I've been doing Illustrator since I was even younger, because it used to be freehand before it was bought out by Adobe. It used to be Macromedia freehand, and I think I was 6 when I started on that. So all of those tools are deep in my brain, as deep as, you know, shaving. So when it came time to start editing Mystic Arts videos, we did them on the software I had at hand. I also had it through like a work contract. So now we're having to pay for it ourselves, and it's expensive as shit. I wouldn't recommend anybody buy it. I'll be honest. There are plenty of free software you can do all this with. If you're going to go video edit, go use DaVinci Resolve. It's free. If you're going to go do layout, use Affinity. I think that's it. I think just sort of the idea of thinking about your pages in terms of chunks of art, you know. This is the introduction page or spread, so it's going to have how to start the adventure, how to read the map. This is going to be the welcome to the Kobold dungeon page, so it's going to have the Kobold art on it. It's going to have the Kobold stat block on it, and it's going to have all these sort of different sections. This page on its own is the welcome to D&D page. Here's how you run D&D. This is going to be the Dragon's Lair page. It's going to have, you know, a dragon art. Maybe it's going to become a spread when we put this big art on it. Like it's this is how big the art is. So maybe we'll figure it out. Eventually, this will all get done, and it'll get stuck into Crown of the Fungal Queen. There's a lot of work left on that, and you can see how much time I spend just on noodling with these things. I could spend forever on it. I love working on these things. Genuinely, I've been talking about my the amount of time I work recently with my friends, because I think sometimes it's 12 or 16 hours a day. I love it, but I also it's a lot. It's a lot of work doing all this stuff, and it's not easy. But I am incredibly blessed to get to do this and to get to share it with you folks. If you feel like supporting the amount of work that I do and that I put into these things, because I believe in the products that we're making. I think we're making really good adventures. I think Broadsheet is spectacular. And I'm not saying that because I worked on it. I'm saying it because I'm very proud of the work that Magnus does on it, that Birna does on it. So if you want to go check out the things we make, and you want to see this, when all this is done, the love we put into this firsthand, come by our Patreon. You can go grab it at the Adept tier. If you're a Mystic Apprentice, you get bonus videos. If you're anything higher than that, you get those bonus videos as well. That's a podcast episode called Game Tales, where we talk about previous adventures we've run. Daði's Diaries, where I share my prep notes and how I prep. For the Journeyman tier, you're going to get to see our actual play and early access while we're still editing it before it goes up on YouTube. And for Mystic Expert, you get everything else. So if you want to support the channel, that is the best way to do so. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend. And if you're feeling especially generous, don't go join the Patreon. You can go like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when we release new videos. And until next time, keep studying the Mystic